This is a Play Your Way Network presentation. Get the full story at PlayLifeYourWay.com. In a world where comics, movies, games, rumors, and Kardashians come at you 24/7, three champions will rise to defend you from wasting precious time, money, and emojis. BK, Nate, and Derreck will show you how to do it the player way.
Ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, it's on once again, Patron once again. It is episode 41 of the Player Way podcast. I am your resident podcast DJ, BK, helping you understand how to curate your media.
The Player Way.
And I never do this thing alone. I'm with my sweet, sweet can. Sweet, sweet, sweet can. Hashtag Homer Simpson when he peeled the little Statue of Liberty gummy off the girl's butt. That's right. We're definitely doing that the Player Way. And I'm killing it when it comes to the joking. And the laughter you hear is from my co-captain, Derreck.
That is me, Mr. Corrupted the System, at Corrupted System on Instagram. Your second and least and all the way down the stream randomness, because I have to be corralled always by these other two gentlemen, because if I'm corrupting the system, then surely Nate would be maintaining the system.
That's money right there, and that's exactly what he said. He said we also have a co-captain named Nate.
That is me, and Derreck was absolutely correct. I do like to maintain the system, maintain some sort of order. Too many people just want to watch the world
maintaining
burn.
The order. Absolutely, absolutely, man. Everything burns. That's exactly right. Speaking
burns.
of Mr. Burns, it sounds like we are on a roll. We got a little Simpsons action going on. And speaking of Simpsons, did you guys hear that Simpsons Matt Groening's brainchild once again predicted the future?
Man, I'm not surprised by this anymore.
The men's this past week, if you were watching the Olympics,
Winter Olympics,
the only feat that you get to see, the only event worth watching is curling. Okay,
of course.
And the United States, we finally killed that shit, man. We finally did it, and the prediction came from the Simpsons that the United States would beat Sweden, and that's exactly who we beat for the men's team.
It's nuts.
Is that not incredible?
It is, because this isn't a one-time occurrence anymore. It's repeatedly happening. I'm convinced that Futurama is for real. That's it. It's obvious that's where Matt Groening lives. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you start to think about it, and there supposedly is like this online AI that can predict what the stock market is going to do, and it's kind of creepy. I feel like the real AI out there is the Simpsons.
They are. That's the whole
That's my conspiracy theory for this week.
Conspiracy. But what if it's a conspiracy?
Shout out to Nate. He is doing silence.
The Player Way.
This week. He loves that little drop.
Thanks,
there.
Nate,
so
for that voiceover on that.
So Nate, what you been up to this week on this Monday of Mondays?
Oh, actually, you know what? I've been keeping this secret from you guys. I did do something over last week. Just briefly, I do work from home most of the time. I have a lot of time to watch a lot of shit. Sometimes I run out of shit to watch, so I end up watching things that I normally wouldn't. And I went through the entire season or at this point, series of fucking Inhumans. And it was a piece of shit. This is some of the worst television I've ever seen. This is... I can
Except
see
for the one
why
Karnak
they
scene
decided,
at the beginning.
I can see why they decided not to make this into a movie. It's very similar to Thor. It even ended the way Ragnarok ended with, switch out Asgard for Adelan. They even had a line, Adelan isn't...
They blew up the moon?
Adelan isn't a place, it's a people. They even said that. They didn't blow up the moon. They blew up where they were living on the moon.
So they blew up part of the moon. That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's insane. And that's how you know something is terrible. That's how you know something's terrible. You know, if you can blow up part of a planetary system like the moon, and no one cares. Like there's no mention of it in any of the other properties.
No,
there's no mention. Like even if you watched what's the movie Will Smith and he plays the superhero?
Hancock.
Yeah, even in Hancock, they at least paid attention to the big heart on the moon that they put up there. I mean, nothing, just no mention. Oh yeah, by the way, the Inhumans blew up part of the moon,
and they moved to Hawaii.
That's so crazy. Is that where they actually live now?
I don't know. This is going to be forever. Just kind of. I'm honestly surprised how Jeff Loeb hasn't gotten fired yet. Because after Iron Fist and then this, it's how did you even let this get to production? You know.
Dude, I told you what it was. I had a conspiracy theory in the previous episode.
Conspiracy. But what if?
I'm telling you, I had a conspiracy. By the way, I can stop that when I want to. I
choose not to. But no, something one.
No, but what's going on? You know, I really feel like they put him out there just to put out bad content, like so that they have a burning. I mean,
here's something that DC can make fun of.
You got to have a lagoon if you have a big mansion. I mean, you got to have a place for the poop shoot to go. You know, it's like,
I guess
you know,
I would.
Is there anything redeemable about it?
No, absolutely. I would definitely watch Iron Fist over and over rather than watching this.
Wow, one. That is,
dude. There's one. So they this is on ABC, so I understand they don't have as much of a budget as, you know, their movies or even the shows on Netflix does, but
it is owned by Disney though. They should have plenty of money to put whatever they want out there.
Needless to say, you know, I don't know if you remember the first episode, but like a group of them escape while the guy was taking over, and they're each separated and they each have their own subplot. One dude gets with like a bunch of surfers, you know, and befriends them and learns about like humanity. Another falls in love with this pot farmer. I shit you not, this female pot farmer.
This is crazy. It's like Beverly Hillbillies.
This is if they went up to their local high school, you know, creative writing class and was like, "Hey guys, you want to come up with a show?"
So we moved off the moon. So we moved off the moon and went to Beverly Hills. That is, you know, it's like, wow.
Yeah,
this is what we're doing, man. So that's
young folks today don't know Beverly Hillbillies. Young folks today.
So what we know is Nate was really, really bored this weekend.
Yeah, I had run out of stuff.
Derek, what you up to?
Well, as we go to our usual Netflix bottomless pit full of everything we ever want to watch, I gave Fullmetal Alchemist, the live action Japanese movie, a try, and it's actually pretty damn good. It's like I had a lot of pause and mental rackets because the last time Netflix did this to me, it was Death Note, and I thought this was going to be an Americanized version, but no, this is actually the Japanese version of this. And it's as a Fullmetal Alchemist fan, thanks again to my godfather of anime, BK, my resident DJ, helping me curate my life and anime
the player way.
Hooked me up with the Fullmetal Alchemist and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. But this is a really cool movie. Nate, even if you don't like, you know, like I said, you know, anime movies, someone, not you specifically, but someone tantamount to you may actually enjoy this. It's the graphics are very similar to kind of like Attack on Titan. They're better than that, but I was okay with the live action Attack on Titan visual. And it starts right with it. Transmutation Circle, failed attempt, and we go right into the mid city struggle with the Fullmetal Alchemist going up against trying to find the Philosopher's Stone, Kenjanai. And it's just really entertaining. It's worth the watch. It's
definitely worth a watch. I saw part of this. My only note about the film is casting when it comes to these live action films. We've seen it with Dragon Ball Evolution. We saw it with the Netflix version of Death Note. We're seeing it here. A lot of times the biggest issue is the characters are just not true to what they are, and that's my biggest problem with this depiction of Elric is he doesn't have he's
The
not
same-
swole enough. I mean,
Yeah.
it's okay to just make him a little swole. And, it's funny. There's certain anime characters that it's like they should be Japanese. Like, if you were to do Goku and Vegeta, I would say for sure Vegeta needs to be Japanese, but I could see Goku being more European looking, or even being mixed race. That type of, I don't know what race this guy is. That type of look.
This could have been the one time. Let's actually
This
cast
is the
a
one time a blonde-haired, long-haired German dude.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's
family.
the whole thing, and that's the thing. They even say in the series that they're German.
Yeah,
they're German. They're very. It's this whole place is Germany. Like, it's the other side of Germany. So it's the upside down of the Nazi thing.
Exactly.
So that was my biggest issue with it. Is this was one time where I felt like the Japanese got it wrong.
They could have.
Like, I feel like, hey guys, now even y'all said in your source material, the guy's name is Hohenheim. You can't have a Japanese dude playing that, and so it looked really weird to me. It looked like the guy was cosplaying. He did some parts of Edward Elric really well, but the silly, like, I doubt Winry was terrible. I didn't think she was good at all.
I wasn't even on board with that at all. And you describe it perfectly. I'm like,
and
like
Mustang was bad too. I didn't like Mustang.
I feel like Mustang would be tantamount to Captain Levi from he should have that level of presence, and Mustang should.
Yeah.
Mustang is he's one of my favorite characters from Full Metal. But like I said, I totally agree with you there. It was something that was hard for me to get past, seeing this Japanese kid with this blonde hair. I'm like, they could have actually the one time. Like, this Dragon Ball Evolution, terrible. The Death Note on here, like, terrible. This, that part of it, like, but however, the story part, that's the part that really carries this movie across.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's one of those. Hey, I have an extra 2 hours and 17 minutes. Let me throw this on and just be entertained. You can watch it with the kids. You know what I'm saying?
What's up?
But
well, definitely, you can't. Yeah, if you're watching this, you're definitely doing it
the player way.
For sure. That's what's up, man. Well, as far as what I was watching this past weekend, WWE on WWE Network, they had the last pay-per-view. If you can even call them that anymore, it's more like their main event of the month before you go down the road to WrestleMania. They had WWE Elimination Chamber. They completely redesigned the Elimination Chamber, and it was the first time they had an all-women Elimination Chamber. So it was actually kind of cool to watch. Rachel, as a female, looking at it, she thought it was kind of cool. It's a really good time to be a woman who's into nerd stuff, because all of that Me Too movement is resulting in fixing some of the lack thereof when it comes to presence. We've seen it in Wakanda. We're seeing it on WWE Network. So it's a beautiful time to be a woman right now. The one thing that Rachel was kind of, and I told her, I said, you're kind of reaching on this. She didn't like how people like Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks, they're wearing all these multicolors and like they're being super sexy. And I'm like, yeah, but women, aren't y'all always saying that y'all want women to own their sexy? It's like, men are in tiny tights too. Y'all got to be in tiny tights too. It's like, come on, so she was like, well, why do they have to color their hair and stuff? And I'm like, well, because they got to stand out, so they are trying to sell action figures. So that's
they are playing a
the
character.
most important thing. Well, they're trying to sell action figures. That's what you got to remember. Is this? It's very similar to a Marvel Comics type of adaptation. Is you're going to see different colors and stuff on the suits than you're used to, because they're trying to give depth of color. So when they sell them, they can sell different versions. They can sell kinetic suit, T'Challa, and then they can sell classic suit T'Challa, and then gold suit T'Challa. So it's all about selling toy merchandise. And thanks to The Toys That Made Us, that's a series on Netflix that we talked about before, but that is a great series to watch to kind of help you understand that the toy business has a huge, in the words of our president, a huge impact on how films go.
It's unbelievable the impact that the wrestling entertainment has for the toy industry. It's unbelievable. I'm going to help him out. My good friend Vince McMahon, we were just talking about.
It's going to be the best ever. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. It's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be huge.
China.
Exactly.
We all got in on it.
Yeah, dude. I'm telling you. So, but anyway, Elimination Chamber was pretty damn good. Sorry for the cough there. The main takeaway was the women's Elimination Chamber. Alexa Bliss ended up winning that. That was the high point of the evening. They had a couple of mediocre matches in between. I don't know why they didn't just put those first and then do the women's Elimination Chamber right for the men's. Not sure about that. But then the main event, which was the men's Elimination Chamber, it was really good. It was really unpredictable. Y'all might have saw Ian and I rather on the group chat talking about it, and I was kind of telling, because some of the people on our group chat don't have WWE Network, and they know that I make graphics, so I'm like, hey, here are the results as it's going along. The biggest problem with it is Roman Reigns ended up winning the Elimination Chamber, and no one cares about Roman Reigns.
Is he not
just don't
very
understand.
Popular?
No, it's not that. It's they fast tracked him. So what happened is, because he's got that connection to The Rock, and he looks a lot like Jason Momoa, and I think him and Jason Momoa even played brothers on a film a while back. They kind of fast tracked his character, and the problem with fast tracking Roman Reigns is he wasn't ready yet. The other people in the Shield that were his contemporaries were better than him. He was really awkward. He's not nearly as good looking as some people see him to be. Some women describe him, as my wife would describe him, as an ugly Jason Momoa. Like, so he's kind of cockeyed looking. He's really awkward. When he smiles, his teeth look separated. So he's not nearly as attractive as some people make him out to be. Compared to a regular dude, he looks amazing. Compared to other guys on the roster, it's a coin flip. And then on top of that, Dwayne Johnson came on when he won a match to get the WWE title a few years back. He actually came on the pay-per-view and like held his hand up, and everybody booed the hell out of The Rock. And it was the first time in a long time he'd been booed like that. So it was really weird. And it was really obvious that people were like, we're not going to let you force this down our throat. Because at that time, Daniel Bryan was who the people wanted. He was the people's champion. And for whatever reason, the authority wanted Roman Reigns. And so he got rejected because, one, they had CM Punk left around there. So they were upset about that. Then Daniel Bryan was the person that people were behind, and then The Rock comes out here and tries to force somebody down your throat. So he never stood a chance. And so they keep trying to force this guy down your throat because they see him as the next Rock, when in actuality the next Rock is actually this guy in development called the Velveteen Dream. And I made a video about him on IG and Facebook. If you guys haven't seen him, go online, look at clips. It is amazing what this guy is doing. It's like if Prince and Jimi Hendrix were put together and put him out there and let him wrestle. It's amazing. He totally owns it. And I saw this guy before he became Velveteen Dream, and I didn't even realize it was the same performer.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh my God, like they completely changed this guy. I mean, and he's just doing such a great job. And there's moments where you can tell he's got the beginning of, let The Rock tell you something. You want to come in here? You want to run your mouth? He's got a little bit of that going, but it's not like copied and paste. So anyway, everyone on Twitter completely vomited and was like, I can't believe that you guys let this guy win. Of all the guys that were in that ring, that's not the guy you thought it was going to be. What we wanted to see was Braun Strowman going toe-to-toe with Brock Lesnar to set up Brock Lesnar leaving, because Brock Lesnar, it was announced today that Brock Lesnar is most likely going to be coming back to the UFC in May. So Dana White is setting up for that. So they're trying to set up for him leaving, and for Roman Reigns, I guess they want to put Roman Reigns over to finally legitimize him. It ain't happening. What's more likely is there was a little speech afterward. Paul Rosenberg was on the Raw Talk post event show, and it sounds like John Cena, because he's kind of looking more into doing movies and stuff, he's looking to do something different with his character to get more attention, to get more roles. So this might be the heel turn that we've all been waiting for, and that's an exclusive that you heard right here on the Player Way podcast. So that gives you a quick rundown of what we were all up to this weekend. If you're a nerd or you're just a regular guy on board, or if you're a guy, actually, I mean, it's really nerd weekend. I mean, Nate held down the Marvel Comics trash. Derek held down the anime trash, and I held down the wrestling, but it's still real to me, trash. So there you go. Nerd weekend. We're putting it on the episode. So now, with no further ado, we've been pushing this off for weeks. We've been talking about it every single week on the podcast. We've been talking about doing the top 5 villains of all time in film, and it's time for us to finally get out there and do it
the Player Way.
So, in no particular order, guys, are there any rules that the people need to know about before we get started?
What we've discussed was we just discussed villains, so this could be encompassing from literature, TV shows, movies, anyone that you perceive to be a villain.
No, we said movies, bro.
Yeah.
Only movies?
Yeah, because
we said only movies.
We kind of had this discussion off mic where I was like, I had more TV than movies, but then we were like, well, let's just do movies. Yeah.
Because a movie is such a short, finite thing. Like, a villain could be over, like, seasons and seasons, like a true...
Here. How about we just do our movies and then
we just leave them for honorable mentions, perhaps?
Yeah.
That's what we actually said in the last conversation, is that if you had anybody outside of film, they would be in your honorable mentions.
All right. Which is what I have.
Okay.
Cool. Perfect. So you have 5 villains from film, Derek?
Correct.
I do.
Cool. Okay, yeah. Nate, you got 5 from film? I got 5 from film. Okay, perfect. So let's start with y'all want to start with the honorable mentions?
No,
sure.
Let's go through the list.
All right.
All right, let's just run it. Start it off, Nate.
An honorable mention. Do we just name all of them, or okay? Go
ahead.
I'll tell you what. The biggest 2 honorable mentions I have are Benjamin Linus from Lost, especially seasons 2 through 5, or before he started to get all good. Find his heart inside.
That was mine. That was my guy as well.
The Benjamin Linus Saeed wanted to kill as a child is the Benjamin Linus on my list.
Yes.
And then Kingpin from Daredevil. Just the fact that they didn't show him and people were afraid to say his name. Yeah, to the first time you do see him is him decapitating someone. Yeah, those were my 2.
Derek?
Nice. Benjamin Linus is one of mine as well. Like, I just have to just because I always feel that if you actually develop emotions toward a character, I have to give the actor props. But then if you actually I for real hate, I can't deal with Ben Linus. I couldn't. But my other honorable mention is one of our very own favorite anime characters, Goku. Dragon Ball Super has made him villain, down to Black Goku and down to this last whole saga. BK, you and I have talked about this to where he, in essence, has suggested a tournament, which is where we're at right now. Actually, we're just a couple weeks away from the end of this whole series, so I'm really excited about that. But he suggested where let's just see who's the strongest, and the caveat on this is whoever is the strongest is we're going to find out that the losers are going to get eliminated, and entire universes have been eliminated at the behest of Goku wanting just to see who's strong besides him. So it really makes him a villain, and one of the all-time villains, just by having whole universes be erased based off his desires. So,
right, that sounds good to me. My 2 honorable mentions. The first one would be Aizen Sosuke from Bleach. Yeah, Aizen Sosuke. Yeah, Aizen Sosuke was a guy who was always 30 steps ahead of everyone else. And even after the anime ended, there were continual arcs with Aizen Sosuke, and he was never caught off guard by anything that was happening. Even when he was imprisoned, he knew exactly where he was supposed to be. So you talk about a guy who was just always knew what was going on, which is what makes some of the villains that we're going to talk about on these lists the intellectual piece of it. You know, before a certain period of time, villains were at an intellectual disadvantage. They were just these guys who were just persistent and always got out on technicalities or just died off. But James Bond, that series changed everything. And so villains more and more resemble Bond villains in that whether they have a long lifespan or not, they are well-off businessmen or men who could do very well in business and manipulate all of us and bend them to their will. That's exactly what Aizen Sosuke did. And then my second honorable mention is Sylar from Heroes. Regardless of what you think about Heroes, Sylar was a bad man. Motherfucker.
He was a bad man.
Dude, there were some scenes where you saw Sylar before he got all cushy. We're talking about season 1 and 2.
Man.
You know, there were some moments where this dude was bad news, but once he got soft going into season 2, it kind of made him, you know, the fact that they had to erase the dude's memory just to make him good. That's crazy. So anyway, those were my honorable mentions. And now let's get down to the nitty gritty. Nate, let's start with you again. Number 5.
My number 5 was Owen Davian from Mission Impossible 3. I remember watching this in the theater, and I had a sour taste in my mouth from Mission Impossible 2. So, you know, when the third one came out, I think like 4 years later, I don't think people were really excited for it, me including. But right from the beginning, where, you know, you see him interrogating Hunt, and he's about to shoot who you think is his wife. I don't know. It was just right from the get-go. You're like...
Spoiler alert!
Yeah, spoiler. But, and then, you know, when they finally capture him and Hunt's trying to get information out of him on the plane, and he's like, who are you? What's your name? You know, do you have a family? I'm going to hurt them.
I'm going to kill you. Because I'm going to kill them.
I like my villains to just be... They're evil, because that's what they are, you know?
Yeah.
So to see that guy... I don't think they've ever villain-wise, they haven't reached that height in Mission Impossible.
What made him number 6 on my list and why what didn't make number 5 is because the thing he was after was a MacGuffin. And so I never saw him truly as dangerous because I never felt like the stakes were super high in that film. I thought it was cool that they did the Pulp Fiction thing where you didn't know what they were chasing, but they really should have just went there with it, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe.
But still think he's great. He's number 6 on my list. Derek.
My number 5. It's funny that you mentioned. This is a perfect segue because you just mentioned Philip Seymour Hoffman, and one of my favorite villains was from another movie that he was also in which he was lit on fire and sit down the street by Francis Dollarhide in Red Dragon.
Dollarhide.
Yes, and he was one of my favorite, down to the eating of the post. You just knew this guy was off. He really brought the Norman Bates character really like to a very powerful, just climactic scene when you see this tattoo on him.
Do you see?
And see that sweet ass of Ralph Fiennes rocking that hair lip to the max.
Do you see?
And just honestly, like he was just twisted, and I just appreciated the intellectual twisted nature of his character. And how meticulous he was with just having that old of a wheelchair, just appreciating the art, knowing exactly what he wanted out of every situation, and then just his downfall being that switch that's off in his brain. And I just really appreciated Francis Dollarhide. So that's my number 5.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I love that. I'm really loving to see how our lists are gonna go. I kind of see Derek's list going. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe we'll all reach a unison. But already, I see Derek going more toward the serial killer side, which is something I know is of interest to him. So interesting there that he started off with a serial killer. My number 5 was from a film that actually made me like westerns. Before I saw this film, I thought westerns were boring and stupid, and something that was relegated to Channel 39 on Sundays that my parents made me watch. You know about that, Derek?
Channel 39, TX39 with the little
and everything. Exactly. But this film did it for me because of this villain. And an honorable mention to the guy that played his son, Leonardo DiCaprio. We're talking about Gene Hackman playing John Herod in The Quick and the Dead. John Herod was a bad mother. Shut your mouth.
Man.
John Herod
First of all, shout out to that movie. The Quick and the Dead is still a good movie. It still holds up.
It was poppy. It was a poppy film. And it's
Russell
very
Crowe,
90s.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Very 90s, yeah. But they did enough in the film to not make it go too poppy. Like, for example, a film that I like to compare to this one, do an apples to apples with, is A Knight's Tale. A Knight's Tale is the other side of the coin where they went too far with like the 90s references and the music. And then this one came right up to that line and stopped and danced right on it, which is what makes a movie that could be terrible and campy and making it believable and good and something that's fun. And so this was back when Sharon Stone still had it. She was still good. Russell Crowe was not Russell Crowe yet. And Leonardo DiCaprio definitely wasn't him yet. Him playing Kid, every time Kid dies in this film, he got killed by his dad, dude. And his dad, until he died, denied that it was his son, knowing good and damn well that was his son. And what makes this dude even more badass is he keeps the tournament going after he killed his own son and got shot by his kid. He gave his own son a gun to kill him. Faced him, knew and good and well what was going to happen. And
had changed it to the death like the day before. And he knew he was fighting his son. He changed the rules to make it, you know what, it's just to the death now.
Dude, Leonardo DiCaprio's acting alone when he dies makes that man a badass motherfucker, dude. So anyway,
that's definitely what's on his wallet.
Number 5. So we got some hurt bombs already in round 1. All right, Nate. Round 2. Fight.
My number 4 was the T-1000. When I watched this as a child back in 1992.
Yes.
Robert Patrick was absolutely terrifying. More so than Arnold in the original Terminator, honestly. He was unstoppable. Yes. He was just a death machine, killing Edward Furlong's adopted parents.
I would say T2 made T1 unwatchable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In the same vein that I think Aliens 2 made Aliens 1 unwatchable, too,
Yes,
Cameron, what he does with sequels is awesome. At least those two, and
yeah, which is why Avatar would be good once it comes out, if it ever comes out.
But yeah, I mean, all around Robert Patrick,
Unobtainium.
The Terminator franchise hasn't been able to have a villain reach the height of the T-1000.
It peaked.
Yeah.
It peaked.
Yeah.
It never got that good again.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Relentlessness. We're seeing a theme. We're seeing a theme in the second round. Derek, lay it on us.
I had a very tough time picking my number 4, and so much so that the one that became my number 4, I took the other one off of the list just because that's how I'm like. I can't have both of these guys on the same list, so I'm not going to mention my honorable mention, but who won it out was Hans Landa from Inglourious Bastards. Played by Christopher Waltz, who was a thorough evil man, and you had to hate that man. Just the scene with the milk. May I have some milk? Oh, go outside for a moment.
May I have some milk?
Oh man,
I'm telling you, dude, the
whole
strudel scene.
Yes,
yeah, dude.
Just the whole movie. Like,
that opening scene with him is just diabolical.
Yes, and then his character, he speaks everything. And he's so perfectly thorough. That's one of the things that that pisses me off whenever I'm watching a movie. That villain or that detective that, just like Hank in Breaking Bad, I hated how thorough he was, but god damn it, man, he was a great detective.
Bro,
he was a great
and Hank down to the end. Hank pulled a Killmonger at the very end. He was like, he just died, dude.
He made up his mind 10 minutes ago. While
yes, there you go. That's it.
You don't even see it. As smart as you are, you're one of the smartest men I know. And he made up his mind 10 minutes ago, and you don't even see it. Pah! Oh! But
do what you gonna. Pah!
Yeah,
Go ahead and do what you got. Pah!
So that type of element is what made me bring Hans Landa. Heck, I'm going to mention it. Hans Landa over Alex DeLarge from Clockwork Orange. That's what made Hans Landa beat him out.
That's a really good. In my opinion, I feel like that was a much better choice. In my opinion, I feel like A Clockwork Orange is a great film, but that villain is overrated. So good job, dude. You definitely made your choice for number 4.
The player way.
And my choice for number 4.
Uh-oh. Bum, bum, brum, bum, bum.
No.
Not yet?
I'm going to make this pencil disappear.
Oh!
Yes.
Heath Ledger.
Yes, Heath Ledger. If you guys can guess how I gauged my top 5 at the end of this, then it'll all make sense. And if not, I'll probably tell you at the very end. But
you already
the
know
Dark
who your
Knight
number 1
version,
is now? Based
Heath Ledger,
on that
exactly,
number 4, that tells me what number
There
1
you go.
is.
Threat level, exactly. So yeah, the Joker, the Dark Knight is my number 4 villain. A guy who was, I mean, there's no explanation needed why he
Say no
made
more.
the list.
Say no more.
There you go. And I guarantee that won't be the last time you hear that name, which is why I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. All right, let's go on to number 3. Nate.
3. This one might be a little controversial, but mine is Kylo Ren.
Ooh. Okay.
Kylo Ren.
Every time we
I'll
talked
give you
about
that.
Star Wars, I've mentioned that he's been the most interesting character to me throughout this new trilogy.
I give you that. I love Kylo Ren.
I think
dude.
he is what Anakin should have
him as a
been
villain.
in the prequels. And I love how whenever he
Yes.
is conflicted by light or dark, like he goes dark side. He chooses.
And
Yeah.
you never know where he's gonna flip. You feel like you can trust him, and then he will double cross you.
To me, that is a villain trying to descent into full villainhood. You know, even though he has these moments where he's tempted
into true
by the
villainy.
light. Yeah, I'm glad he always picks dark. So, yeah.
Give you that. D, number 3.
My number 3 was one that I had to appreciate because I had to go down to the nostalgia of the first movie in this series, to where I truly fell in love with the psychological terrorism that Jigsaw brought to his victims.
All right.
And I have to
Jigsaw.
appreciate that. Jigsaw was an incredible villain. He inspired more villains who were all shadows of him, but he was a meticulous psychological terror
To the
deal
point where
with.
his traps still worked after he was dead.
I got to give him
The level of masonry. Yeah, I give you
yeah,
that.
yeah. So
That's awesome.
Jigsaw is my next one on there.
I love that you're staying consistent with where these things are going. Because where's your number 4 again?
My number 4 was Hans Linda.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, see, you're going down a certain path. I see exactly where you're going. Crimes Against Humanity style.
I will pay folding money to see if you can guess my number 2.
I'm not going to be able to.
I bet you
I
will.
probably won't.
I bet you can.
All right.
All right.
Number 3 is a man who would have easily hunted down the Joker. He would have found him and he would have killed him many times over. And then Batman would have tried to find this guy, and this guy probably would have killed Batman too. And number 3,
Say it.
made it possible. It made it true that there was no country for old man. Anton Chigurh. Anton Chigurh is number 3.
Call
the
it.
man who makes you flip a coin.
Call it.
The coin don't have no say. It's just you. Anton Chigurh would have killed the Joker. He would have found him. He would have found exactly where he was at, and he would have came up from behind him and killed the shit out of him. And he probably would have killed Bruce Wayne too. I mean, Anton Chigurh
Call it.
was just pure relentlessness. If you ever seen the film It Follows, was actually probably Anton Chigurh. So, yeah, so that's my
funny
number
you bring up
3.
It Follows. Nate, who was your number 5 again?
Owen Davian from Mission Impossible.
He maybe it was the number 4. Maybe it was something you said reminded me of It Follows earlier.
T-1000. That motherfucker was always there.
Yeah. I was like, there was something you said, but that's legit. That's a powerful number 3. With the air compressor, you know how maniacal you have to be to
with
think.
A simple air compressor, and he got every single hit. Every single hit, he got
Pop.
every one of them dudes. He got everybody.
Down to here, kid. Here's $10. Shut up.
I'm telling you, dude. And still walked out with a broke leg, dude. I mean, it's just insane what this dude could do.
Woo.
So, anyway, there you go. Number 2, Nate.
Number 2 was the guy that started it all for my love for villains, and it's Vader. I don't know what else you can say
Give
other
it
than
that.
Vader. It's Vader.
Hey, say no more, fam. I got a feeling he'll be popping up a little bit later so we can talk about him. All right,
Nice.
number 2, Derek.
My number 2 is another one. He's part of a trilogy, and very interesting character. I say he, but it's not really a he. It is an it. And Agent Smith comes in at his powerful number 2, a very strong, solid number 2.
Wow,
Where
that was a good one.
Another one where you just had a villain who saw literally outside of the system that he was designed to protect and challenged literally everything, down to even the fans, where they still there are hundreds of people that still firmly believe that he is actually the one. And Agent Smith just was relentless. I mean, you saw so in Revolution. No, the second one. Reloaded, where just copies of himself just flooding the system with his prowess. And man, you got to appreciate Agent Smith. Me personally, that was my solid number 2.
My number 2 is not part of an trilogy. He's part of an anthology. He is played by the same actor that played Anton Chigurh, and this guy's name is Raul Silva. Raul Silva was in 007, and this guy actually succeeded in killing him and almost succeeded in killing 007. I mean, this dude blew up the MI6 building. I mean, he destroyed everything. He did exactly what he said he was going to do, and he got away with it in the end. I mean, even the Joker couldn't get fully away with what his plan was. Raul Silva did it. I mean, and it completely changed the entire course of James Bond's life and the entire MI6 program. So Raul Silva, I mean, even down to like that scene where he takes out piece of his face because it apparently had melted because he had taken like a capsule to kill himself and it failed. So he had like this thing inside of his face that was completely it fixed his disfigurement. He was essentially the exact opposite of what James Bond was, and on top of that, he was meticulously played by an amazing actor. So, yeah, Raul Silva did it for me, man.
Okay. This definitely solidifies that number 1. It solidifies both our number 1s, actually.
Nate, exactly. Nate, what's your number 1?
Hey, you was mentioned earlier. Mine was the Joker from The Dark Knight.
I knew it was yours. I knew he was your first one.
I'm not a guy that enjoyed Jack Nicholson's performance as Joker. I even as I grew older, it was stupider and stupider to me. Nothing against Jack Nicholson. His Joker was just kind of dumb as fuck. This Joker made me root for shit to go so wrong in Batman's life that Joker will pop back up on the screen again. Because he was such
to the point where I make an argument that the only reason why people watch that film over and over again is just to watch the Joker portions and fast forward.
Absolutely.
The rest.
There's a reason why he got an Oscar, and I know it was posthumous, but I could argue that even if he was alive, he would still have won it because it was such an amazing performance.
He still would have won it. I really do. I really think he would have.
And there's not much else to say.
And he would have been an even bigger star because the third film. That's the tragedy of all of it. Is the third film would have been insane.
Yes,
it would have been insane because it would have been him. It would have been him and the League of Shadows together, most likely.
Yeah, and I love that he was just a guy that wanted to see the world burn. And then it turned to, well, shit, playing with Batman is fun, you know? So I don't care to see the world burn. I want to fuck with Batman now. That's, not much else to see.
There you go. I give it to you. And for number 1, for both Derek and I both, Derek, do the honors.
Derek, your number 1, I know what your number 1 is. My number 1 does match a co-captain on here, but it matches the one that was previously stated. And by Nate's number 1, which of course is mine as well. I have to appreciate Heath Ledger's Joker in the Dark Knight, because personally for me, I appreciate it because a true agent of chaos, at some point they find out that chaos is not as gratifying as it could be, but not this guy. Madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push down to the point where he forced people to make decisions on blowing up inmates versus ourselves, and then they actually had to face their true human realities. The other villains in here even feared him just because they're like, this guy is nuts. He came in there, bang, here's a pencil in your skull. Bam, I'm wired to blow up. You don't know my clothes because I made them. I have no fingerprints. And like, he almost took down Commissioner Gordon. Like, I just have to appreciate it because he was a true agent of chaos and enjoyed it and frustrated Batman to no end. And you know, we're all deprived for not being able to see any more of it. And you know, it just I truly appreciate Heath Ledger's portrayal of an anarchist Joker.
Also, probably the best introduction to a villain, you know, in a movie, I think, from that bank robbery scene.
Yep.
Yeah.
To the point, yeah.
I'm supposed to kill the driver.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, to the point where Killmonger's introduction into Black Panther was made better because of that. It was obvious that it was almost a homage to that same scene.
Well, that's a great segue into
and my number one, a little different than Derek. Although knowing Derek, I should have realized it was going to be the Joker for his number one. But I'm really surprised this guy didn't make his list at all. And it is Anakin Starkiller himself. Originally called Starkiller, but ended up being retconned to Skywalker because of Luke Skywalker. So ended up being Darth Vader, my number one. And again, if you look at the threat level assessment of all of the characters that I named, you start with John Herod, a guy who basically ran an entire city in the West. And if you came to that city, you owned it. You got it. The Joker then is a guy who also owned a much bigger city. Anton Chigurh, the guy who could have easily killed the Joker. He would have done it. He just would have. There's no arguments there. Raul Silva.
There's lots of arguments there. Not really. Raul One, it's
Silva,
set in the 70s, and he would have had to like take a cab in places. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. Raul Silva, and then a guy who almost destroyed the Earth, and then Darth Vader, a man who almost destroyed the galaxy. So Darth Vader, I don't see how you guys didn't put Darth Vader number one, or didn't put him on the list at all. What's wrong with you? I can't even. Here's the thing. Here's my thing. Now comes time for the arguments. Because how can you put Kylo Ren above the man that made him possible?
I didn't. He was one below.
Because
you put Darth Vader as number 4?
No, Darth Vader was my number 2. But Joker is more of a personal because I'm more of a comic fan than I am
I
a
got
Star
you.
Wars fan.
I give it to you. Sorry, I forgot that he was number 2. You didn't want to put number 2. Derek is the one who didn't put him on at all. That's right.
Yeah.
So he didn't put Kylo Ren or Darth Vader. That's so crazy.
I respect them, but as you can tell by my list, I'm not a big fan of the villain who has multi-billion dollars at their expense. Like, it's easy to be a villain when you have an entire army at your disposal.
But you could be so much better one.
You could be, but then where's the fun in that when you have it's no fun when you're God mode. You know what I mean? Because
for that reason, that's why I did not put Beerus or Frieza, because technically they were in feature films, and I could have put them on this list, but I didn't for that reason. Of course.
And of course, I mean, ultimately, this is all going to come down to just personal opinion. But as I said, I appreciate that. We'll take Heath Ledger. I appreciate the fact that he was a street thug bank robber that all but took down a multi-billionaire who built the city of Gotham. Whose family built the city of Gotham.
Yeah.
And frustrated him. And Batman, with all his strength, literally had nothing on this guy. He had nothing to do to some guy who makes his own clothes. Some guy who makes his own clothes.
And I will say about the Joker, because he did make my list as well, the thing about the Joker is, and this is the sad part about it, they never even got to the Ace Chemical story. That's what's crazy. They made Joker work without even talking about his powers and his abilities. They never even got to the fact that he's like a scientist that can do things. They just worked with a facet of what he is.
Just the anarchist
obviously
facet.
He was more. Yeah, and what's cool about it is they would have gotten to the Ace chemicals because of the fight that him and Joker have in the interrogation scene. He even says never start off with the blunt force trauma.
The victim's head. It gets all fuzzy.
Boom, hits his hand. Obviously smashes, maybe even breaks his hand, and he just says, "See," it's like, and then he beats him up, and he says, "All your strength and nothing to do with it." They even they touch on the fact that he has abilities. He just is not you don't know what they are.
Exactly, and that's one reason why I can't believe that Javier Bardem would hunt him down. Like Joker would find enough petty thugs to handle this guy. You know what I mean? He would, because look, if he took down mob members without personally having to take down mob members, I feel that he could have. That was my argument for your No Country for Old Men. I feel like if he can take down mob members without having to actually do it himself, he would have easily taken down a lone. In my opinion.
Well, I get you, and here's my counter to that.
Ooh,
the reason why Anton Chigurh would have done it.
Yes, listen to the confidence.
Anton Chigurh killed hitmen, very good hitmen, killed very good hitmen in the 70s, where tracking a person was impossible. Nowadays, it's easy to track a person. Okay, and then on top of that, the people who would have hired Anton Chigurh were the League of Shadows, and the League of Shadows could have easily beaten the Joker. They just didn't want to, because he was helping them out. But if they really wanted to, they could have caught him. So that's my thing when it comes to Anton Chigurh, is he didn't have any powers. You saw this man bloody and broken.
But the Joker did have Batman always on his case, and Batman never caught him. And Batman, I would say, would be but you also think Anton would take down You also said Anton would take down Bruce Wayne and Batman too. So you made some powerful statement.
You made some powerful statement for sure. First of all, Batman's not even hard to take down. I mean, almost everybody takes
Batman
him down.
Fanboys everywhere just somehow got angry at just now, because you know what the argument always is for Batman. What's the argument always?
Christian Bale's version?
Oh,
you mean the guy who Robin Blake was able to just find the cave by just traveling down into it? I mean,
no, he found Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne gave him that note at the end, and that's how he found the cave. But remember,
but there's still
Robin
a
Blake
cave in
was the guy
ground.
that figured out he was Batman by just looking at him.
There you go, Nate.
You had that look.
Nate
you had the same look as me.
The same look as me. Dude.
I knew that you were Batman.
The worst detective ever. Anyway. Jesus Christ.
But if he had prep time,
I tell you, I don't know. I feel like the biggest injustice, to turn a phrase, of that series is that because of Bane, Liam Neeson doing the League of Shadows, and Heath Ledger Joker, because they had three really strong villains, people give Christian Bale's Batman way too much credit. Christian Bale's Batman, I feel, is just one, when you put him up next to Batfleck, just looking at them, one looks more legit than the other.
The fight scene from Batman versus Superman, of him versus bad
think
guys.
of how easy it was to find his fucking armory. It was inside fucking... It was inside the fuck... Oh, my God. I can't even finish this.
He's short-circuited.
It was inside the Wayne building. It was inside of Wayne Enterprises. The Batcave, part of the Batcave, and not only that, he had multiple Batcaves all over the city, which is going to make it even easier to find him. I was just like, come on, y'all.
Guys,
have y'all
if we just follow this tank that he drives, and he jumps over this little ramp into a waterfall, okay? I feel like that's probably his hideout, okay?
So, guys, a quick question. Okay, so there's this floor that I see in this building that there's not an elevator for. Have y'all ever noticed between floors 13 and 14, it's like a longer time to get to the ding? Or have you ever noticed when you try to... Remember that time we had that fire in the building and we tried to walk down from floor 14 down to floor 12, but we couldn't find a door to get down to that floor?
That was pretty crazy, yeah.
There's an extra floor in the building, dude.
Hey, you remember that one guy that was he went and talked to Lucius Fox. He said that he figured out who Batman was, and we haven't seen him since.
Through his tax records.
I don't...
That means the IRS would have found fucking Batman.
One of the worst plot lines movie-wise to me, outside of having old Batman start a universe, is the fact that Christian Bale quit for 8 years. Batman would never quit
dude,
over a girl. Are you kidding?
And he quit, and somehow his body was battered and broken when he took a break right after the film when he was fine.
Yeah.
How is that possible? I just don't understand. Understand.
You know, the old rope to fix the back treatment and then take the quick express from the hole in the ground to Gotham City and then, oh, hey, Catwoman.
What would have been a better story is that Bruce Wayne disappeared and no one knows where he's been. But, like, no one figured out the fact that Bruce Wayne and Batman both went missing at the same fucking time, and neither of them been seen in public. Like, come on, y'all. And then Bruce Wayne shows up, and all of a sudden Batman shows. Come on, y'all. Come on, man. Fuck out of here, bro. Like, come on, bro.
I'm not saying Bruce Wayne is Batman, but I'm just saying you ain't never seen him in the same place.
I'm just saying, like, they took that old adage and they took it to the extreme in The Dark Knight Rises.
Like, if they were going to use that. Like I said, is antiquated. That's 30s and 40s mentality. If they're gonna this day and age,
they brought it to a film. That's how you know how good Tom Hardy was, y'all, and Anne Hathaway. That's how you know how good both of them were. Is like you don't remember
they supported them.
How bad it is, and it makes that because Anne Hathaway, woo, that opening scene with Catwoman in The Dark Knight Rises, that was.
Anne Hathaway's she's gorgeous to me.
Shout out to Dr. Bay on Instagram for just for that.
Woo. Oh man.
Man, I am hungry.
Man, especially with the Batman. Just
I'm telling you.
Wow.
See now you get my reference. That's what made me think of it with the Batman.
The Batman with the just
exactly
two midgets in the back seat.
Beat it up like the Dark Knight. Exactly. We are alive still.
Yes.
So anyway.
But yes, now we're done with bashing Batman as Bane did Up, Down, and Sideways all over the Dark Knight.
Yes.
Exactly. These are some good villains.
The Dark Knight, just beat it up. Right in daylight.
That's right, man. Just
don't care who see it, just right on the steps. He beat it up in daylight.
One of those where you be like, hold on, woman, I have to do this right here in front of you. I don't even care the repercussions or consequences right now.
Woman like, where you been at? Well, I went to this other country and we was underground for a long time. That's
brother.
where I've been at.
My brother.
Exactly. All right, exactly. All right, so rounding out the episode, we're right at about an hour right here. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between, thank you so much for listening. And just to kind of round it out, we're going to give you a little we're going to talk about the box office just a little bit before we're completely done. Derek, you had some really good facts and figures about Black Panther, the film that is just still continuing to dominate theaters. Sorry for all of the other films that are out right now. Red Sparrow, no one cares. It's all about Wakanda.
It did have a drop-off. As with all film. Mm-hmm. But its drop-off of the second weekend was $111 million.
So it brought in $111 million domestic?
Yes, that was the weekend domestic.
That's so crazy.
That's second week. And then with the worldwide release, it leapt to over $700 million. This came out on the 16th. We are 10 days in, and we're over $700 million. It took Justice League 4 months just to get up to, 300? You know what I mean? This did it in 4 days. You know, it's great. It speaks volumes for what Marvel can do. It speaks volumes for Ryan Coogler, because I cannot sing his praises enough for having this type of platform and having this type of success. And it just, like I said, it gets me ready for May 4th. You know what I'm saying? May 2nd through that
Avengers,
weekend.
This was the best trailer for a Marvel film ever. The smartest idea to come out with a film that just puts you right in the crosshairs. And the last time they did that with Ant-Man as well. If I remember correctly, Ant-Man did that as well, didn't they?
Ant-Man came out after.
Age of Ultron?
It was
Ant-Man came out after.
It came out after Age of Ultron?
Just says it's going to come
Remember,
after.
we were talking about how Ant-Man's usually the hangover movie.
Never mind. So, never mind. Then that... So, what was it then that said it? Was it Iron Man 3?
Well, Ant-Man came before Civil War.
Okay, so then that's the one I'm thinking of. that kind of put it right in the crosshairs. But it didn't do it as well as this one. This one is like
and it was a lot
immediately
longer.
after you see this film
The
2 or 3 times, you're like, okay, let me see that Play Away Podcast logo reveal at Play Away Podcast on Instagram, and definitely did bringing in that Kid Ash. Exactly. Shout out to Nate. You were definitely doing logos.
The Player Way.
And on this episode, if you listened, you then definitely did see that logo go up, that Avengers Infinity War Part 1. What's the word I'm looking for? Parody logo. So it's so hard to even say parody because it's so perfect.
It's so beautiful.
I've shown so many people that logo, and not to brag on us a little bit on the podcast, but people are definitely loving the look of that. So thanks.
I can't wait I can't wait for the shirt that I'm gonna somehow make out of this.
Exactly. I'm gonna probably put a shirt up on the store probably either later this week or
the store. What store is that, BK?
Oh well, now that we're talking about taking a pause for the cause, and a little bit time to get that Kid Ash. If you want to get some of the amazing content but put into fashion that you can wear, all you got to do is go to playlifeyourway.com and click on the Geek Shop. The Geek Shop has several different designs by both Nathan and myself on that, and then you can definitely get that and make sure that you are doing your geek fashion
The Player Way.
Really good prices, and most likely I'm going to be putting, if you love my cap collection, people have been on Instagram complimenting on my cap collection, the fact that I got like at least 4 or 5 different Pokemon hats and different version of the Pokemon hat depending on, I got Red from Pokemon Red, I got Ash Ketchum's hat, I got Team Valor's cap, I got even just the Pokeball hat, I got some Legend of Zelda caps, I got the Goku cap, so I got other ones coming as well. So if you guys like that, let us know feedback wise, and we'll start to get in contact with the resellers and sell those for like, let's say $12 a cap on our website. Right. So there you go.
Captain Atlanta. Cap.
Code Captain. Exactly. So Nate, do you have any, what's coming up in the theaters for this weekend, man?
Well, March 2nd.
I already know.
You'd be happy to know that, because I know
feel
how
like Black Dynamite. I already know what you're gonna see. I don't even have to look.
Death Wish, starring Bruce Willis, directed by Eli Roth. You were pretty excited for this one. You can watch that this Friday.
I will be. I'm gonna watch that.
Or you can watch Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence.
No, Red Sparrow's so predictable.
It's actually a pretty
Red Sparrow.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's a pretty slow month until movie-wise. Well, I think it'll be slow until May. You know.
The next big film that I perceive to be coming out that people are going to be, like nerds are going to be excited for, and I do believe that this is before, it's Tomb Raider. I was going to say that. Tomb Raider is going to be the next one that I can see kind of being like, I want to definitely see that when it comes out. While I am a huge fan of Death Wish, shout out to Charlie Bronson, my co-captains. They hating on you, but they don't know that you's original T-1000. They don't even understand Charles Bronson is that dude. You know what I'm saying? Charles Bronson was dude who would eat your whole asshole. All praise to Allah. That's how he used to do it. Okay. Hashtag Mike Tyson. Saying, bro, Charles Bronson was that dude, man. And they ain't gonna act like I mean, these are the same dudes. I guess y'all don't have no love for Columbo either, huh? Columbo was that dude, man. Columbo and Charles Bronson, that was a dual pack of action back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, these young whippersnappers, they spoiled. They don't understand. Columbo was that dude. And Matlock, don't even get me started on Matlock. All 3 of them all together was the Ocean Spray special back in the day. Okay? So anyway.
But I ain't gonna let you skip over In the Heat of the Night.
Exactly. You're so stupid. In the Heat of the Night. You know what I mean? Now you really talking about, and then put some gun smoke on that too.
Woo.
Man, you talking about some grandparents
and then with some
having
bonanza.
a good day. Go in there, put them beans on, that cornbread. It's gonna be all
cornbread.
Right. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Shout out to Dr.
Write it. Hey, in the daylight. In the daylight.
My brother.
Fight night. Exactly. So anyway, Nate. Definitely it's gonna be a little slow in theaters. Next week, I think I want to talk a little bit. I want to bring up a little idea before we close it out. Shout out to our co-captain. Oh, not co-captain. Sorry. Shout out to a member of the Play Your Way Network, Wolf Townsend. Ian, he has been working on. He and I actually been talking all day. He's got this book that he was collaborating with Derreck and I with. He actually sent me the first novella early today. I've read up to chapter 14. Derreck, when you read it, you're not going to be able to put it down if you haven't already read it. It's a great little novella. I don't want to mention the name up for intellectual property rights, but in honor of his book that he's been writing, it's got me in the mind of talking about great great fantasy series. We're talking about Lord of the Rings. We're talking about Harry Potter. We're talking about Warcraft. We're talking about all of these different series that bring in the fantasy aspect. So we may be talking about what makes a great fantasy film. He and I were talking a little bit about that. He and I may even do a deep dive. So if you are a fantasy fan and you really love Harry Potter and those different types of Lord of the Rings films and things like that, we'll probably be talking a little bit about those things coming up. Even down to Doctor Strange fits into that same category as well, and what makes a great fantasy film work versus some of the ones that don't work as well. So we got that definitely coming up pretty soon. Anything else for the good of the order, guys?
I have none to watch.
Yeah.
None to say.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, with all due respect, I've been your resident podcast DJ, BK, helping you understand how to curate your life and media
The Player Way.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I could never do it alone. Shout out to my co-captains, Nate.
That's me. That's it. That's me.
No update for us, brother?
You know, I've just realized people don't care about Ricketts anymore. You know, there's
Come on, dude. You got to give it to us, man. Look, there.
I have a
definite
conspiracy theory that Nate is perpetuating rickets.
What if it's a
I'm still taking donations for a vaccination.
Exactly. And the Mr. Corrupting the System himself, spelled just like you hear it on Instagram, but all the vowels out on
Twitter. I need a glass of Twitter.
And he's now on Vero, just like I'm on Vero itself. Same thing, Corrupting the System and at Playaway Podcast, Mr. Derreck.
That is me, Derek Lewis, the urban cowboy, known as the wild card, but still maintaining the system.
Take somebody's
Take
job.
that, Nate.
Sounds like somebody, all they got to deal with is rickets at this point.
That's right. Conspiracy
Exactly.
theory. I bet that Nate is not really dealing with rickets at all, and he is getting the vitamin C and D through Z that he needs.
It's a conspiracy.
He's playing life and doing rickets.
The Player Way.
Indeed.
Thanks for the assist.
Absolutely, bro. Alley-oop it just like that. And ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between, with all due respect, please remember, first and foremost, if you like what you hear, if you're enjoying the comedy, you're enjoying the commentary and the curation, definitely go on iTunes, Google Play, or whatever your podcast dispensation point of choice. Please go on there, give us a 5-star, 5-time champion Booker T rating, and help us beat it up like Fight Night. You know what I'm saying? Hit us with a left.
If you
hit us
know
with a
me,
right.
know the bug sway. Everybody got to put my resume. Hey.
Exactly. Help us, man. And definitely, if you enjoy our content, you are missing out on the party if you are only listening to us. Little hint there, a little spoiler alert. Go on Instagram at Player Way Podcast. Derek, Nate, and I, we have our glorious pictures if you just love to look at us. But there's amazing content, graphic art, daily, and little sports notes, WWE notes, things to follow. In fact, I actually had a listener this week. Shout out to Rube Ziggy. He hit me up and he said, dude, I'm getting to the point where your podcast, when I get up and go take my morning poop, I have my phone in hand scrolling through y'all's timeline on Instagram. Like, y'all are like the news to me. So to the point where I even stepped it up to the next notch. I said, all right, I'm gonna take that note. We even have little news reports by me with a little green screen action looking all extra heavenly inside the heavens with the stars above. And no matter what path you take and actions you decide to follow, just make sure you are doing those things
The Player Way.
We'll see you next week. Nate, send us off.
Death Wish March 2nd, yo.
Peace out, rappers. There we go. And we're going to end that just like that.
Thanks for listening to the Player Way podcast. Recorded in a single take from Los Angeles, California, Dallas, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia, by Nathan Peterson, Derek Lewis, and BK Jackson.
And I'm Darren Marlar, the majestic voice of the Player Way podcast.
Our opening theme is titled Bound by Ricky Remedy, courtesy of Elysian Records. And our closing theme is titled Coconut King Diaries by Xander, spelled Zahnder. You can find this music by both Ricky Remedy and Xander, and many more tracks on SoundCloud. And remember, no matter what choices you make or paths you follow, just make sure you do it
The Player Way.
See you next week.